Hello and welcome back. This is Dmac. Today I thought I'd do a little show and tell video for you, just showing you a couple of things that I've been up to recently. Been in lock sport for a couple of years now, and yeah, I really enjoy the hobby, and I enjoy that there's so many different facets to it, so many different things you can get involved in. And for me, up until recently, one of the things I hadn't really got involved in was making my own picks, making my own handles and that sort of thing. But I've kind of been throwing myself into it. I've bought a couple of tools and spoken to a couple of the experts out there and trying to get a few tips and tricks. But I just wanted to share with you the results and kind of show you where I started and where I finished. Well, not where I finished, but where I am today anyway. And you can decide if there's been an improvement or not. The first pick I ever made was this one here. I wouldn't say I made the pick. This was a Sparrow's blank that I bought, and I shaped the tip. It's just like a shallow hook. I've shown this one before on the videos, and this is as basic as it gets. I just took that blank, splodged a bit of epoxy on the back and just stuck it on this bit of angle. I've got a couple of holes there, but they're not doing anything. I think you can just see a little bit of epoxy in there. Yeah, pretty much got the handle, stuck it to a bit of aluminium. But I really like this pick. It's got me a lot of opens, and perhaps there's a certain comfort in using it. And I was quite happy with that. I wasn't intending to go into pick making. And then a little while after that, I bought the Sparrows, the SS Dev set. And I went to B&Q, which is a local hardware store if you're not familiar with it, and I bought some strip oak. It cost about £5 for, I don't know, it's about a metre or something like that, a couple of inches across. And I kind of, this is an SS Dev in 15 thousandths, and I'm not a fan of the thermoplastic handles that they can come with, and I just needed to beef up the handle. So I put these brass pins in. As you can see, I kind of went wrong there and popped that hole in. I think at the time I drilled these through, which if you've ever tried drilling into the hardened steel, you'll understand that it's a complete pain to do and not practical. Hence the where I went wrong there. So I slapped a load of epoxy that I had in the workshop there, which was like a yellow colour, onto this pick, and then roughly sanded it. And I wasn't going for anything beautiful here. It was all I was going for was practicality. I just wanted something that was going to be a little bit more rigid for me to pick with. But after playing with this for a while, and just seeing other custom pick makers, I wasn't a custom pick maker at all, but just seeing what could be achieved, I thought, well, I might be able to do better than this. So I thought I'd revisit and have another go. The SS Dev set at the time was kind of wearing out. They're only thin and they kind of get bent. So this was Mark II, so I got another SS Dev set. I thought this time I'd just take a little bit more time to try and make it look a bit nicer as well as being functional, get the aesthetics in there. So I took a little bit of care to kind of shape the tip. This one was so much better than this one. The shaping on that one's quite crude. And this is, I think I've had this one for about a year, 18 months, and it's really done me well. Hasn't bent at all actually, and gets a lot of use. But it kind of lacked the finesse that I really appreciated when I saw real custom pick makers and what they do. So I decided to revisit that oak. I think I watched a couple of videos. Locknude did an excellent one on pick making, and Daz Evers did an absolutely fantastic Mike Carter pick handle build. And that's got some awesome tips in it. I recommend you go and watch that. In fact, I'm going to link it down below. So I think there's 3 videos in the series. So much information in there, and that really helped me. And then in between buying this and attempting it again, I'd bought a Dremel, so I decided to see if I could, shape the pick handles. You see these beautiful handles by Rat Yoke and those kind of people. I think that's how you say it. But yeah, just a little bit nicer than these flat ones. I got the Dremel out and kind of, starting roughing out shapes. This was one that I was trying. It looks more like a guppy or something, doesn't it, or a bird almost. But I quite liked the shape of it. I think I got to this stage, obviously still quite rough and lots of wood still to take off. And I suddenly realised I wouldn't be able to put the cut in there for the partial tang because there's no way to kind of keep it still on the tools that I had at the moment. So that one got binned. And then I did this one here, which I was really quite pleased with the shape on this one. So it was exactly the same process as this, and exactly the same wood as those SS Devs. This one here, I shaped the tip as well to a short hook. And yeah, I'm really pleased with the shape, but I made some real big errors on this one. Looks like a really nice sleek pick. Yeah, two main problems that I had with this one. Number one, I designed it to go around this way. Now, if you know me, you know that I tend to pick pins up, so that way around. But I designed the handle ergonomically for me to hold this way around, and it was just in a rush when I was epoxying it that I just didn't think, and I pretty much bonded that handle in upside down. I mean, that said, it's still relatively comfortable, but I think it's not as comfortable as it would have been had I did it the right way around that I'd intended. But obviously by then the epoxy was setting and the clamps were on, and it was all too late, and what was done was done. The other thing I didn't like about this one was this is a partial tang, I guess you'd call it, so the steel doesn't go the full length for the handle. It's just a really ugly cut, and I'm looking down on that all the time, and yeah, well, just wasn't too pleased with it really. I thought there must be a way to do better. So since getting this one, I think I've invested in a few tools that should alleviate that. One being a nice batch of Lawlock Tools steel, the offcuts, and that means that I'll be able to shape. Sorry, getting you out of focus there. Shape the pick and the tang, I guess it's called, the bit that goes down here, so that you can see the steel all the way through and you don't just see ugly bits of epoxy, and certainly not ugly cuts like that. But yeah, it's still a nice pick, and I intend to use it, and you can only learn from your mistakes. So the next one I tried was this one, which I think I'd shown in a previous video, which is a monkey paw. I didn't put any brass pins in this one. I just epoxied him straight on, made sure it was all roughed up, and it's got a nicer line because you can see all of that steel going all the way through. It doesn't quite go all the way through because the handle isn't quite long enough for me, so this is just epoxy, and that's a little bit ugly as well. But the only other choice I think is to do it shorter, and I prefer my picks to be a little bit longer. And this one again is the same oak as the original. It's that same strip of wood that I bought a few years ago, but all I did with this one was I sprayed it black prior to sanding it, so that black went into the grain and just give it a little bit more texture, which came out quite nice actually. And the other difference as well, I forgot to say, I didn't know anything about pick making. I still don't know a great deal about handle making. I'm still a complete noob really, but I'm learning. I know that you need to oil wood, and the only oil that I had was olive oil, so I just dipped this handle into olive oil, and to be honest, after a couple of years wear, it still looks pretty good. So there you go, top tip for you: use olive oil. Who needs beeswax and teak oil? So with this one anyway, I did use the proper stuff, so that was just dipping it in teak oil and buffing it up, and using some beeswax, and that seemed to come out really nicely. And this was only made a week or so ago, so time will tell how it stands up. And that brings us up to date. Just wanted to show off a couple of picks I've made today. So these ones are certainly getting better and where I want to be in my pick making, and a far cry from where I started. But so these ones are Valerian, Lawlock Tools Valerian, and they go so full tang, and they look a lot nicer. There's still a few mistakes on these, which I'll show you. Not sure of the wood. I think that's a cherry wood. What I did, I decided to finally ditch the oak. I was getting to the dregs of it, so I went onto eBay and bought some, I think they're called wooden pen blanks, bits of wood about sort of yay long, and you can shape those various exotic woods or hardwoods, which give you some nice grains and textures for pick making. So yeah, really quite pleased with that one. Polished him up. Not quite a mirror finish. I think I used 2500 grit on this one, but what it could really do with is a polishing wheel or some metal polish or something like that. But maybe on the next one, that's what I'll try. So this one also I managed to get some hollow pins. I'd been using, I think these are 3mm brass pins, which I was using for making pins for American 1100s, just security pins, just to sort of muck around with. But this is the 4mm brass tube, which gives it a slightly different dimension. So yeah, I was quite pleased with that one. And then we've got this teardrop, and I forgot to record what the wood was on this one, but yeah, similar to oak anyway, just a tighter grain. A couple of problems with it. The holes are not quite central, but like I say, I'm learning and just really enjoying the process. And I think that it's a far cry really from where I started not so long ago with this ugly but functional pick. And my first wooden picks probably 18 months, 2 years ago. To these beauties here. I mean, there's definitely a way to go, and certainly not in the same league as a lot of the awesome pick makers out there. But yeah, I hope to improve and appreciate the advice that I've been given from other pick makers in the community, and sharing that knowledge has enabled me to produce these, which I'm really happy with. And hopefully in the future I can make some more beauties. And yeah, probably these ones here, the tips were already shaped, so these are just flat blanks from Lawlock Tools. But what I've done is I've bought some offcuts, which Andrew does on his website, and they're fairly cheap, and that means that you can start from scratch and also make the steel yourself, and the profile of the pick you can make all of that yourself. So obviously a more involved project than these ones just slapping a bit of wood on. But yeah, so that'll be the next project. Watch this space. But I just wanted to share with you that pick journey, and yeah, encourage you, if it's something that you've maybe thought about, to grab a couple of simple tools. My first tools making these picks and even these ones, I think all I used for this was a drill and some sandpaper. And yeah, that was about it, and a bit of epoxy, and got some reasonable results out of that one. But yeah, we'll see where I get to in the future. But anyway, thanks for watching. That's been my custom pick making journey so far, and hopefully I'll go on to making some more interesting picks in the future. Anyway, thanks for watching, and bye for now.